Yeah, Alvin is headed downstairs.
Okay, call to order the Water Demand Committee meeting for April 10th, 2025, at 2:02. Roll call, please.
Director Oglesby? Here. Director Anderson?
Here.
Chair Edwards?
Here,
All members are present.
thank you. Any additions and corrections to the agenda? GM,
No changes.
okay,
no
thank you.
changes.
Okay, first action item, any comments from the public?
Chair Edwards, I do have one member of the public, however, no raised hands.
Okay, thank you. First action item. Consider adoption of committee members' minutes from February 6th.
I will move to accept the minutes.
Okay,
February 6th, even though I was not at that meeting.
That's fine.
all right. And we have a second.
A second.
Okay. Any comments from the public? If no comments from the public,
No.
we'll take a vote. Is this a roll
Director
call?
Oglesby? Yes.
Okay, roll
Director
call
Anderson?
vote, please.
Director Anderson?
Yes.
Director Oglesby?
Aye.
Chair Edwards?
Aye.
Minutes are adopted 3-0.
All right, Stephanie, what's the first action item?
Our discussion item of the day, first discussion, is the update on resolution 2024 that supported the closure of open water permits with a one-time amnesty period. And Alvin, I really hope you appreciate the information that was put in this staff report, because I hopefully answered everything you could possibly want.
Yes, you did a good job with the staff report. But one thing at the end of it, you say no action at this time.
Correct.
Should we be doing any action at this time?
No, so this is just informational for the committee. So I'll just go through and touch on the highlights of the staff report. So as you recall, we adopted a resolution in October that runs for a full year, so it will end at the end of September of 2025. That suspended some of our rules so that we could close permits that had either hadn't ever had a final inspection or had a violation, and were still being reported as open in our database system. And there's a specific time that these permits, they had to meet a certain limitation to fall into this group. When it came to the board for initial consideration, we had identified about 1,600 open permits that didn't include the number of violations that we also need to close, but just as far as 1,600 permits that had not had final inspections. So after the board adopted the policy, then we began outreach with each of the jurisdictions, and we set up 3 different orientation meetings for people to come in and learn how we were going to work with the jurisdictions and what our expectations were. We had some jurisdictions come in person, and then because we also didn't have some people come, Stephanie Kister-Campbell, who is kind of heading up this effort, recorded one of those and provided the link so that the staff of the other jurisdictions could learn what the process was and who was able to take advantage of this program. Then we started contacting all of the property owners, so the current property owners, and letting them have an opportunity to contact us to schedule the final inspection. And And then we would give them 30 days or thereabouts to respond. And if they didn't make contact with us, it's followed up by another letter giving another 30 days. At which point we record a notice of non-compliance on the title of the property. And so what has happened at this point is there's a table on the second page of the staff report that shows you where we are right now. That basically we whittled down the number of actual physical properties to about 1,137 different separate properties that were identified with these open permits. And we've been going jurisdiction by jurisdiction, sending out letters. First, it was to Pacific Grove, then Sand City, Seaside, Delray Oaks. We are currently in the process of sending letters to the unincorporated county and the city of Carmel. So we're still going through this first loop of contact. But what has happened so far, which I actually failed to put in here, so bad me, is of those jurisdictions that where we've successfully closed, and that's the last column on my table, there are only about 100 open permits that remain for all of those jurisdictions down through the city of Monterey. So we've done a really great job of actually closing out a lot of permits. Unincorporated county and Carmel are still in the process of getting their first, second, and third letters. And so, and they have a total of 619 properties that we've identified in those two jurisdictions that are currently getting letters and getting inspections. So we are moving forward. We're doing a great job with it. Once we get through this phase, we'll start a second phase where we're going to be looking at properties that have violations on them and giving them the opportunity to come through and clear the violations. So that'll be the next phase, which we expect to start probably in the next month, and it will run probably through about August. And so we've been this has been very good as far as getting things closed. We have had impacts on staff. Obviously, this is going to require more inspections. So we've added about 100 inspections to our schedule every month. We obviously have, because of people having to call and schedule their inspections, we've got increased phone calls and emails and other correspondence. So we've been very busy. And what's basically been happening is the inspectors go out and do the inspections, provide the information to the property owner on how they can fix whatever problems we may find. And then they follow up and then turn the project over to the permit analysts who walk the property owner through whatever they need to do to finish the permit. We have had some interesting reactions to this program, which would be expected. Since it's been, in some cases, 30 plus years since the permit might have been issued. And now we're suddenly contacting them, even though our law says, and our permit even says that they are supposed to contact us when they're finished with the project. But for the most part, people have been accepting and have obviously cleared the permits. There are a few people who have been less than professional about everything, but our inspectors have been weathering it well. And then I think the other key information is that while we didn't know when we started the program how much water would be involved with correcting these permits, what we found is most permits don't require any water or very little water. And so at this point, we have amended all these permits, and it's only used less than an acre foot of the district reserve. So that's been a big positive. And then I think that then to finish that, we're finishing contacting these people, and then we're going to move on to the next stage. And I think I will plan to come back to this committee in a couple of months with another update so you can see where we are as we move into the next phase of this program. But yeah, as far as this committee's action goes, there's no action on this. It's just for your information.
Okay, any questions from, go ahead there, Director. Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question.
Mhm.
Since this was through, some of them may have been 30 years ago, what's the impact or what kind of response do you get for people who it wasn't even their house when it happened?
So that's a great question, actually. Because our enforcement process is a site enforcement, sometimes we've had to educate them about the fact that there was a permit. We've also had a number of people who have contacted us who they haven't done the project or the project was never done. So we can just close those permits out. You know, in some cases, it's been a child who's inherited the property. And I'd say for the most part, people have been really positive about it in terms of just taking care of it because really it doesn't, you know, there's no penalty to them to take care of it at this point. And
I can tell you that we've had just a handful of folks who've gone out of their way to send a derisive email in response. One in particular was, "Hey, I bought this house, and this is something that's on a previous owner," and it was, you know, anti-bureaucracy, anti-government, anti everything. The other form is usually a friend of the district who then just wants to be sarcastic about the fact that we're 20 years or 25 years into the past. And I could name names that you would know who went out of their way to send a sarcastic email. And then I just say, hey, we're just closing our books. It's going to be really low impact. Just do what they say. And that's the last we hear of it. So generally speaking, very, very few adverse direct comments back and more sarcastic than pointed. So it's been working.
Okay, Mary, you have anything? Okay, so Stephanie, we haven't sent letters out to the county or Carmel yet.
well, we've started sending letters out to the county.
Okay,
So
but we haven't, all right, would that affect their time? I'm looking at
no,
their
no,
time.
because most of these are getting resolved really quickly.
Okay, before we bless everybody with an extension, when you think you're going to come up with a decision on that? If we still behind, because these people
I think
letters and
yeah,
we're
Elvin,
about
what we're telling people is that, you know, there is a deadline. And so, you know, like I said, most of these are not involving any real actions by the property owner, and they're just being cleared. You know, maybe there are a very, very few that are requiring somebody to say to replace an old toilet or something like that, but you know, they've got months to take care of it at this point, and the jurisdictions are on board. They're processing these as needed, and yeah, I don't think we're going to have an issue with getting through these guys before, you know, without, and they'll have plenty of time to take care of it once we're through.
Okay, my next question is, Dave, do you think we should give a presentation in public of what we just heard from Stephanie to the full board and the public on how we doing on this program? Because I can see some problems coming up that I got my notice late. I got this late. I got that late. I need an extension. So what's your thoughts? Should we bring this out
You're
publicly?
muted, Dave.
Yeah, I had planned for an update at the midway point. This is pretty close to the midway point, but we're not quite there yet. So I don't know, Stephanie, would you be able to update these numbers at the, you know, what is it, 2 months from now?
Well, yes, and I would say June might be a time to do that. because ideally we would kind of have identified who falls into the second phase. And that's going to be another fairly extensive project, but by that time we would have the numbers on the first stuff done basically.
Okay, because what I'm looking at, yeah, I don't mind extending this amnesty if we have to.
Yeah, I don't want to do that if we can help it. So yeah.
You said it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good.
Our goal is to have everybody cleared out of here, and maybe they'll have, you know, an extra month or two to tie up the loose strings.
And are we letting the cities know how they doing?
Yeah, in fact, Stephanie has been in touch with these guys on a regular basis, and I know Andy, you're on right now. Hopefully you're getting those communications, but I've been in touch with people, and Stephanie Kister has definitely been in touch with the jurisdictions.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee members comments on this item?
No,
If not, go ahead, Mayor.
no, I just said no, thank you.
Okay, no other? Okay, if not, we'll move to the next item. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I think this is a Dave item, isn't it, Dave?
It is. Let me quickly screen share here.
Yeah.
And for each of the committees, we are trying to put into context what pieces of the strategic goals and objectives apply to that committee that will kind of come back to the committee related to the strategic goals. So you may recall in March, we adopted 6 strategic goals, kind of high level goals with objectives beneath them. Obviously, we have a lot more work to do on things that didn't rise to strategic goals. But with respect to the Water Demand Committee, everything in our strategic goals that applies to the Water Demand Committee is nestled in our goal number 1, which is the protection and increasing of water supply. And you may say, well, why we're water demand, not the Water Supply Planning Committee, but the lifting of the cease and desist order and the moratorium on new meters is really related to our ability to grow as a community. You know, building starts, housing starts, job creation. And so a lot of the lifting of the cease and desist order will be coming back to this committee to report progress and activities. Down in the 4th bullet point, supply versus demand is a recurring theme, and we will be, so AMBAG has indicated that they intend to adopt a new metropolitan transportation plan and regional growth forecast, and that regional growth forecast would be adopted June of 2026, which means there will be some preliminary looks in calendar year 2025. So we're tracking that activity, and if it informs kind of a shift in our prior supply and demand forecast, we would notify the committee and take action. And then finally, under the last bullet, we've had a lot of discussion this week about the non-functional turf portion of the conservation as a way of life regulation frameworks at the state. We had even initiated trying to do a very minor cleanup ordinance at the Legislative Advocacy Committee. And we've had JEA and Associates actually talking to Senate staffers and Assembly staffers. And just this morning, we kind of reread the health and safety regs, and we may think that there's an end around that we would not need legislation, and that we're going to attempt to get the Division of Drinking Water to designate the district as a public water system and assign a public water system ID to us. So that's kind of a late breaking development, but the reason for that is the ability to enforce the non-functional turf standards only applies to public water systems, cities, counties, or a city and county. They, as it turns out, in talking to the legislative person at Aqua, there was a lot of discussion about whether wholesalers like ourselves should be included or excluded, whether special districts in the water field should be included or excluded. And they felt that they picked up all of the water-related entities by the public water system, city or county designation. So we're going to try to get ourselves designated, because it turns out, rereading the words and the definitions in the health and safety code over and over and over, I think we can make the case that we are in fact a public water system. So that'll come in play. And then we're also starting to initiate a review of the new water use efficiency objective filing requirements, and trying to identify errors or omissions in CalAM's first submittal. Thankfully, there's no enforcement or identification of whether you met or failed to meet your objective. Right now, it's just reporting. So we're in on that. And so all of those are water demand related. Those are either permit related with our public, or water demand forecasting related, or water demand conservation / enforcement related. So we will have things to do that we'll report back to this committee during the year, and very likely carrying over into next year.
Okay, any committee members comments on this item? Okay, if no comment, go ahead.
I just said, it sounds like a good thing to do, and a place that we ought to be active.
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor, got any comments?
No comments.
Okay. What's the next item, if any, GM?
I think that was it.
Okay, sorry for my lateness on getting in the meeting. I'm starting to have problems, so if no comments from the public.
Correct. I see no
I'm
raised
gonna
hand.
adjourn this meeting. I'll call you later, Mayor. All right, meeting adjourned.
All right, thank you all.
Great conversation. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.